Hello and what is up everyone, it is Hachi from the Art of Dota, and this is my gameplay update 7.12 patch analysis video. This is released on March 29th, 2018, and let's see what Ice Frog has in store for us for this week's update. So it seems like right off the bat, Pangolier is now in Captain's mode, making Techies the only hero to be excluded from a competitive Dota. This probably is not the biggest change because I don't think Pangolier is that good. He's pretty broken in some scenarios and pubs, but I think overall I'm surprised that Dark Willow actually got the pass to Captain's mode first, as I think that she is a more powerful hero in many senses, also more versatile in what she can provide to a draft. But I think Pangolier can make some waves as an offlaner, a new offlane pick, as he does provide a lot of damage and control in team fights, and he's also a pretty annoying offlaner to deal with. So we'll see how the Pangolier players make use of that. Maybe we'll see it even at DAC, but I think notably, I think the only Pangolier player or offlaner at DAC I know that has played Pangolier quite a bit is Ice, but he kind of plays everything. So maybe Ice Pangolier, who knows. The second general change is going to be neutral creep stacks bounty being increased from 15% to 20%. So now the supports are going to get even more gold, as it didn't really feel that significant, and even after that change the meta didn't really shift at all, not even with just particular strategies towards stacking. I mean, it was something that supports did anyway with certain heroes, but it wasn't like the meta shifted to where these heroes were like super powerful, and the supports can get gold off of them, right? So like, for example, if teams are going to pick Gyrocopter, they're going to stack, or they're going to pick Medusa, they're going to stack, but it was not like supports were going out of their way to stack. And this is just going to help the supports out a little bit more, so they can get some gold. As you know, as a 5 position, if you're not having a good game or there's not a lot of fighting going on, there's really not much to do. And you don't get any gold income. You're spending all your gold income or passive gold income on wards, and you just never progress. So this is a nice change, especially as a support player. Alright, now moving on to the item changes. Clarities has finally been nerfed just slightly, but this item has been pretty broken for a long time, to the point where mids would just buy Clarities and jungle, you know, heroes like Shadow Fiend instead of going for bottle. Heart has been buffed slightly. This item is pretty underutilized. I would say only a number of heroes would actually go out and buy a heart. For the most part, you know, heroes favor things like Scotties more, or like Satanic even. Speaking of Satanic, it's also been buffed here it seems, but let's just move down the list. I mean, this doesn't really make the biggest difference, right? Just slight buff here and there, just tweaking the items. Same thing with Moonshard, increasing the attack speed. Against Moonshard isn't really purchased that often, especially as an item to actually be held in the inventory. And just these slight buffs just making the item a little bit more worthwhile, right? Nullifier being nerfed. This item is probably one of the best late game items, or like 5th to 6th slot items in the game right now, being able to prevent the hero from BKBing, but now they're going to slow the projectile speed a little bit to make it a little bit more avoidable. So if you can see the projectile coming, you can pop your BK before you get nullified, unless they of course blink directly on top of you and nullify you. Refresh Orb has been buffed slightly here with some mana regeneration. Again, this doesn't really matter too much at the end of the day, just a little bit more of incentive to purchase some of these items, but these are all late game items and this won't really change too much. Same thing with Satanic, it has half a second more duration, which, you know, can be significant. Like half a second is 1 or 2 auto attacks, which can be the difference between surviving a fight or just losing the fight, right? And dying. So say this is probably the biggest change out of all these items so far. As you know, 10 attack speed is only so much, 5 strength only so much, but like more duration in an item like this, that is the difference between life and death, can be a big deal. Silver Edge will have its break duration decreased from 5 to 4 seconds, and the cooldown, however, is reduced to same as a Shadow Blade or still shorter. I think it's shorter. Where's Shadow Blade? 28, yeah. So now it's shorter. Well, it was always shorter, but now it's even shorter. Which is fine. The break duration, kind of sucks, as if you really are buying the item for break, this makes it worse, but if you're just buying the item as an upgraded Shadow Blade, this is actually a buff, so a little bit of both there here. So I would say this is kind of like, they just changed it. It's not really a big buff or nerf to the item, they just changed it. Skull Basher has been buffed, as this item is kind of forgotten now, as many people would just favor buying a Nullifier, or Nullifier and a Bloodthorn as a late game alternative to Abyssal Blade, because that can apply to any hero, whereas Abyssal Blade, of course, only will apply to melee heroes. Heroes like Anti-Mage and stuff still buy it, but for the most part, other heroes usually go for Nullifier. And it's just going to be a small buff to it. And they're not going to over buff it to the point where it's like must buy, but they're just going to increase the bash duration slightly. Not really that big of a deal. Spirit Vessel is going to be nerfed finally. The enemy current health base damage changed from 3% direct HP modification, so it did direct health damage, or HP removal, I guess the term for it would be. Now it has been changed to magic damage, and considering most heroes have natural 25% magic damage reduction, this will actually be more damage if you're just considering base magic resistance, because 25%. If it was a direct change, it would be 4% magic damage, but it's 4.5 to kind of account for natural magic resistance from int heroes, or heroes that have like hoods or pipes or glimmers or something like that. So really not the biggest change there. It's really the smallest nerf for Spirit Vessel anyone could hope for, but it is kind of a nerf, mainly only against heroes that have some form of magic resist. So we have that there. That wasn't what I was expecting from Spirit Vessel being nerfed, but because I can't even call this much of a nerf, because in theory this actually does more damage slightly to heroes that don't have any form of magic resist. So I don't know. Anyway, moving on to the hero changes. Anti-Mage, Mana Void damage increased, and this is the multiplier. So it's going to do more damage at level 1. Level 1 Mana Void feels kind of useless. Now it's going to be a 0.8 multiplier. And at level 3 it's going to stay the same, however. So this just makes Anti-Mage slightly more useful. Anti-Mage teamfight contribution with his Mana Void going to do slightly more damage. Overall, I still think Anti-Mage is not a good hero. Just not too greedy heroes do his job better at split pushing and farming, and they're more versatile. Whereas Anti-Mage, he's needs to have a good lane, and then of course he's a split push specialist, but that's kind of where he's shoehorned in. He can't really do other things unless someone comes up with some new meta fighting Anti-Mage build. but certainly this change is not going to really impact that too much. Arc Warden is going to have the flux cooldown reduced from 18 to 16 seconds. His hero still feels pretty bad. Again, he's really greedy. He feels like a worse Tinker. Makes it really hard for enemies to push into you. But if they just have any form of jump or catch, he's even worse than a Tinker, because Tinker naturally buys a Blink Dagger as like his second item after Boots of Travel, where Arc Warden really doesn't do that. He buys Midas, and he's really immobile, so it's a lot easier to catch an Arc Warden now. Like, you don't need specialist heroes like a Bat Rider or someone to catch an Arc Warden now. You really can have any, like even just carry that has any form of blink to just go in there and kill him, and he's just kind of just gonna feed. In addition, his magnetic field has been buffed slightly. The AoE has been increased. This is just gonna make it really, it doesn't really change too much. If anything, because like the thing about magnetic field is, right, people have to walk inside of it to do damage to things inside of it, right? Or right click, physical damage. But making the AoE larger it's kind of a double-edged sword in a sense, because if the bow was bigger, right, you're affecting more things, units, but at the same time, if it's bigger, it's also a bigger space where the enemy can enter and do damage to things inside. So this really helps out if you're like pushing or something like that, and you're gonna be able to affect all allies. But if anything, like, they can just walk into the bubble, right? So I really don't know about that change there. I feel like it doesn't do anything. In everything, it's bad in some scenarios. Anyway, Axe battle hunger duration increased from 10 to 12 seconds. I mean, this ability feels kind of useless and dumb. Regardless of whether Sir Action Slack thinks it's a good idea to max battle hunger or not. I saw that Reddit thread. But, yeah, it's more annoying now, I guess. But, like, you can easily just get rid of it by killing a creep. So, I mean, if you actually... Alright, if you combine this with, like, the Aghanims and, he has a talent as well, right?
Here comes the axe.
Yeah, battle hunger DPS. You combine that with the talent, you combine that with the Ags, maybe it's legit. I don't know. 12 seconds and you're fighting a team fight nowhere near creeps. I mean, you can wipe, in theory, you can wipe an entire team like that by like chopping one person, and they're like in the Rosh pit or something. They have fatal bonds on them. But yeah. Bloodseeker, Thirst, Linger bonus duration increased from 2 to 4. So this is just passive. Before it would linger for just 2 seconds, and then you'd lose all your movement speed. But now it lingers for 4, which is actually a pretty big buff, considering he was buffed in the last patch as well. Not actually having to be around a target to receive the heal from his Blood Rage. And now they're just going to further buff him. And I still think he's not a very good hero, because I think this patch is all about lane pressure. You need to be able to push the lanes in order to open up plays, objectives on the map. I mean, Dota has been like that for a while, but this patch isn't really favoring just greedy farmers. Like, you can get away with one greedy farmer, but that's not enough, because if one hero is just farming and the other heroes are just making space for them, like old 4 Protect 1 style, and when you're playing against a lane pressure play style, they're going to be able to push in the lanes, and then eventually you're going to have to show your gankers, right? Because no hero can just clear waves that quickly to account for like 3 or 2 heroes just pushing waves in all the time. The enemy team is just going to end up out farming, and that's what you see EG do a lot. They pick heroes that just pressure lanes, like Vipers and Lycans and Visage, Beastmaster, things like that just push in the lanes and farm, create space for the rest of the team, and allow the whole team to farm and get a lot of items. It works out for them, for the most part. Bounty Hunter, Shuriken Toss, mana cost has been increased, just a small nerf there. It's going to be 150 at all levels instead of scaling. which just makes it so you really don't want to use level 1 Shuriken. It's already pretty useless, but it doesn't do that much damage unless you're trying to cancel TP or finish off a target. Now, it's going to give him a little bit more mana problems, but the main thing is bounty hunters have been shying away from buying mana boots, as mech isn't really a thing anymore for bounty hunter. They want to buy more utility, like either a medallion, a force staff, just super earn or something like that, or spirit vessel. But now, maybe we'll go back to buying mana boots for bounty hunter, because 150, like, it doesn't seem like a lot, but considering his mana pool, it does end up costing a lot of mana eventually if you're using a lot of shurikens. Chen, Holy Persuasion can no longer... Oh my god, did they destroy Chen? Oh, good thing I'm done spamming him. Holy Persuasion can no longer target non-player allied creeps. That means that you can no longer send creeps back to base with Chen. Wrecked. The hero is wrecked. I mean, he can still be good in certain scenarios, but that means you just can't auto-win your offlane anymore with Chen, which was like one of the primary reasons he was picked. So this is probably just going to favor Enchantress over Chen a lot more, as not only can she scale better as a 4 position, or even as an offlaner. This was something that was kind of ridiculous about the hero, and I could see this coming from a mile away. And they'll finally choose to remove this. I mean, it was just silly. Clink's strafe duration has been increased. That was one of my main problems with the hero. Strafe felt like it just didn't last at all. I don't think he's weak, but I just think that he only fits in certain situations, and this is going to be an overall pretty big buff. Half a second doesn't seem like much, but considering how much attack speed and how fast he's attacking, it adds up. Alright, moving on to Crystal Maiden. Her base damage has been increased by 3. Considering her ability to harass and her move speed, it really doesn't do too much there. But this is a pretty big change. Arcane Aura self-mana regen increased at level 1, 2, 3. It's going to stay the same at level 4. But overall, this is I won't say that it's the biggest deal, but it'll definitely allow her to spam her spells out a little more, especially at the earlier levels. Because sometimes Arcane Aura just doesn't feel like it's enough, because her spells are actually pretty mana intensive to just sustain her spellcasting, and for the most part, usually you're gonna eventually still have to rely on clarities, but now that clarities has been nerfed, this kind of offsets it a little bit here. I mean, it's an appreciated change to Crystal Maiden, but does it really impact or affect the game that much? Not really. But as a Crystal Maiden player, I appreciate it. Now, moving on to Darkseer. This hero has kind of been ignored a little bit. I don't really see him picked up at all, really, as an offlaner nowadays. And let's see what they're going to do to him. Vacuum? Are they buffing Vacuum? They're buffing Vacuum? Oh, look at that. Alright, never mind. What's the point? Ice Frog. My question here is, what's the point? Okay, let's just go through. Vacuum AoE increased. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So the AoE is now actually significant at level 1. It's 400. Oh, what the heck? 400, which is between a level 2 and level 3 Vacuum. Then it's the same as level 3 Vacuum at level 2. And then it goes even further between a level 3 and level 4. And then at level 4 it stays the same. However, the difference is the cooldown now scales. So level 1 Vacuum now has a significant AoE, but the cooldown is pretty high, 60 seconds. But that scales down by 10 seconds at every level to a 30 seconds at level 4, which is less than the previous cooldown. That was at a flat 32. Vacuum cast range has also been rescaled. So level 1 Vacuum is going to have slightly less cast range than the default of the old Vacuum Then at level 2, it's going to be the same, and moving onward, level 3 and level 4 is going to have a greater cast range than the default cast range. So looking at all of this, and we're also looking at the pull duration. Holy crap. So the pull duration has been increased from 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, and 0.6. So what does it actually mean? Like the amount of time they're actually being pulled in. So for example, like level 1 vacuum will have a big AoE, but they won't get pulled in that close, right? Because they're only going to get pulled for 0.3 seconds. So they're going to get pulled in, but they're not going to get pulled in for the whole 0.5 seconds. And then it goes to 0.4, 0.5, and 0.6 scaling. And again, at level 4, it's going to be better than the old vacuum. So pretty much maxed out Darkseer or level 4 vacuum Darkseer is going to be overall buffed, but you can argue that at the other levels, like, you know, level 1 vacuum was super useless, but now, even though it has a very long cooldown, it has pretty decent AoE. You know, it's slightly nerfed in terms of its pull duration, so they're not going to get pulled in as close, but it's more usable than the old vacuum in my opinion still. And the damage has also been rescaled, so it does, again, more damage at level 4, less damage at earlier levels. I think this is a pretty nice change. This spell, you know, is one of the most broken spells in the game. That's why we've seen it nerfed time and time and time again. It's just so good in terms of synergizing with, you know, other abilities in the game, as well as just setting up a team fight. But the earlier levels of vacuum always seemed underwhelming, and I don't think Ice Frog had an idea of how to make vacuum work at the earlier levels without just being straight up broken. But I think this is a good change, as it makes it not only more useful early on, but it also is somewhat, you know, restricted. Like, it's not just unlimited vacuum, right? 60-second cooldown. You know, if you put that value point into vacuum, you're going to get use out of it, you know, being able to cancel TP, reposition hero in a fight, but it's not going to be just straight up broken. And this is a good change for Darkseer, as right now he feels weak, and, you know, a big change like this to him would be most appreciated right now, where he's not really in the best spot. In addition, they changed his ultimate here, Wall of Replica. The incoming illusion damage has been reduced from 400% to 300%, so this makes the illusion slightly tankier. The Wall of Replica width has been increased, so this increases the area for when the wall will spawn illusions, which means that if you just walk like somewhat close to the wall, it's going to make an illusion. And you know, some decent buffs to an ability that is replicated by Terrablade's basic ability. Keep in mind, this is his ultimate. And Wall of Replica wasn't really, you know, the main function of a Darkseer. It was just the rest of his kit. Wall of Replica was a bonus. Okay, some Dark Willow nerfs. Terrorize. I'm getting messaged. What's going on? Terrorize cast time increased from 0.8 to 1 full second. And this is the fear, right? If you don't know the abilities. So Terrorize is the fear, and this is going to increase its cast time a little bit. I thought they would nerf its cast range, but they're going to nerf the cast time instead. So if you still predict properly, you know, you have 0.2 more seconds before the projectile comes out. And this is the cast time, right? So this is between when she's like winding up her hand and about to throw Jex or whatever, to when the projectile actually comes out. And you're also going to count like the travel time and things like that. So it makes it slightly harder to land. Bedlam cooldown has now also been increased only at level 2 and level 3, which is okay. This is really that big of a deal. It mainly affects her team fighting ability, as she could very easily just get multiple bedlams off in a single team fight with a 20-second cooldown when she's maxed out. Now at 30 seconds, it's going to be a little bit harder. Like, because the team fight can end. Like, 10 seconds is a long time when you're talking about a team fight, right? So usually team fights don't even last for that long, but in longer team fights, easily Dark Willow can just get 2, potentially 3 casts of Bedlam out. Now that's going to be severely restricted with this 10-second cooldown nerf at level 3. Dazzle is going to get a change to Poison Touch, which felt like a strange ability since its rework. Now that it like bounces to multiple targets and things like that, the damage will just get increased. That's it. At levels 2 to 4. It's going to stay the same at level 1, which is what most Dazzles are going to leave Poison Touch on, so this really doesn't affect things too much unless you go for some weird max Poison Touch build. Death Prophet, the Spirit Siphon, charge restore time has been increased 45 seconds at all levels to 60 seconds at level 1, scaling down by 5 seconds each level. So at level 4 is going to be the same. Death Prophet, I wouldn't say she's the strongest hero right now, but she's definitely annoying to deal with, and a lot part of that is her Spirit Siphon making her pretty much unkillable. So it's okay nerf to her. I don't feel like it's fully warranted, but they're also going to increase the mana cost for her silence, making it scaling now. So some slight nerfs to Death Prophet. Kind of surprising, but I guess they're hitting the more popular heroes in this patch. Disruptor, again, should expect nerfs here because he's quite heavily picked right now. So Static Storm no longer lingers on your hero for 0.5 seconds after walking away from the AoE. It already ends immediately once the spell is over. Okay. So this was pretty much before. If you guys didn't know, Static Storm, like, you could walk out of it and it still stays around for a while. That's why sometimes it feels like you walked out but you're still silenced. That's because the lingering effect of it, which I don't know why it did that. I'm not sure that was intended or not, or that was an engine limitation of Dota 1, but that's just how it always worked. But now they're going to get rid of that, which is nice. So you outside of Static Storm, you're not going to be silenced. Makes sense. It's not really, I mean, it's a nerf, but I feel like it should have just been like this, and it was annoying that it wasn't. Kinetic Field, the cooldown has also been increased at levels 1 to 3. Level 4, it's going to be the same. Affects his combat ready potential in the early game. So, you're not going to drop the Kinetic Field every time a gank plays out. Because for the most part, you're not maxing Kinetic Field, right? You're maxing your Glimpse first, and Kinetic Field gets maxed afterwards. So, low level Disruptor, sometimes you're going to find yourself with the Kinetic Field on cooldown. That's pretty much it. It increases by like it's a good 4 seconds at level 2. 6 seconds at level 1 can make a difference. Like, if you're there for a gank, you're moving fast on the map, you might not have Kinetic Field up. Not the biggest change. I'm surprised they didn't change something with Glimpse or anything like that, but they're realizing that Disruptor, like the hero itself, isn't really that powerful. In a sense that it's not like anything about him is like broken or too strong. It's just really the playstyle that he fits into right now with the other heroes, where he's like one of the best supports, right? Because not only he provides so much team fighting potential with Static Storm, he's really good at catching heroes out, chasing and stuff like that. And that's okay. Change to Disruptor. It wasn't hit too hard. Drow Ranger, the Precision Aura, the attack damage bonus has been increased at all levels except for level 1. Drow strats really have fallen out of favor, and bit of a buff there. We might see Drow Ranger back, especially Drow Visage. I'm surprised that no one has tried Drow Visage. I think it's maybe a little bit too greedy, but it shreds people. And it's not like this Precision Aura buff is going to really change that, but it's going to overall make Drow strats stronger. And we haven't seen that many Drow strats recently. Maybe we'll see a return of it. This is going to inspire someone to go back to Drow Ranger. That's pretty much what this change is going to do. Elder Titan, Echo Stomp, initial stun duration reduced from 0.8 to 0.2. What does that mean? Elder Titan?
Axe is ready.
This is Echo Stomp. Oh, so they're talking about the stun duration. So when they get Echo Stomp, they would get stunned for a little bit, and then the sleep starts. But now that stun duration is significantly reduced. Now that wasn't even a part. What the heck? That wasn't even a part of the spell description. You look at that. You don't even see it anywhere. But it was a thing, or a mechanic of the spell, and now that is not out, but significantly reduced there. Ember Spirit base armor increased by 1. Now, this doesn't look too significant, but for a hero like this, where his weakness is in the laning stage and how much harass he's going to take trying to go for trades, this is actually a pretty significant buff. 2 would be even more significant, but this is just going to make him overall a lot stronger laner, and it's actually a pretty big deal. We might see more Ember Spirit, because I don't even think he's that bad. It's just that he felt pretty underwhelming in the laning stage, and that's pretty much it. I can get bullied out by too many heroes, especially the heroes like Shadow Fiend and things like that. But something like this can bring a hero back for sure. Enchantress Untouchable, slow rescaled, 40 to 20 at level 1. This overall nerfs Untouchable at earlier levels, making her not as untouchable as she used to be. Enchant, the cooldown has also been rescaled to 55 seconds at level 1. Some pretty significant Enchantress nerfs here, because usually you're going to have enchant on 1 point, right? You're going to leave just 1 casual point on it, and now that's not really viable anymore if you actually want to use creeps. That's actually so high. Wait, hold on. What's the duration? Yeah, that's 55 seconds. So you can't even re-enchant a creep at level 1. Now, if you guys didn't know, you should know, but you can re-enchant a creep that you've already enchanted to control it again so it doesn't expire, right? But now if we look, the duration is 50 seconds and the cooldown is 55 seconds. So you actually cannot re-enchant creeps anymore with only level 1 enchant. So you actually have to put 2 points in it, which takes up another skill point. And the way you skill Enchantress is kind of weird, and having to sink another skill point into enchant is going to make her weak in other aspects, like not having multiple points in Untouchable, considering that has been nerfed, or just not having more heal, right, from her wisps or Nature's Attendants. The slow, however, has been increased to account for the nerf to the cooldown, and the never mind, I just lied, I didn't read the full thing. So the enchant duration is going to be rescaled to 80 seconds at all levels, so you will be able to re-enchant with just level 1 enchant. Okay, so maybe I should read the whole thing before I make a comment, but overall it's still a nerf. So it means you can't get multiple creeps as easily at level 1, because that was pretty broken before. You could go roaming Enchantress level 1 enchant And this actually just nerfs the jungle heroes, and Chen and Enchantress. Keep in mind, Chen was significantly nerfed, not being able to send creeps back, and now Enchantress is also nerfed as a jungle roamer. I guess Ice Frog isn't happy with these heroes, just kind of like auto win if they get lucky with like creeps and how the lanes play out. He's not happy with that. Impetus mana cost, however, has been rescaled, so it costs less at level 1, now it costs more at level 3. I would say that's not the biggest deal there. It's going to be nice at earlier levels, and then when you usually have level 3 Impetus, you'll have some form of mana regen or a big enough mana pool to account for this, so it's not bad. Let's see what they did to boy Gyrocopter here. Oh no, IO. Alright, Gyrocopter Flak Cannon cooldown has been increased from 30 to 40. Pretty significant. It's going to affect his farm speed, his team fighting potential, everything. The homing missiles hits to destroy has been reduced to 3 at all levels. So it only takes 3 hits there. His homing missiles gone. Your teammates even remember to hit the homing missile, so I feel like they always forget, but it's pretty easy to kill the homing missile now. Like, you can hit it once, your teammate hits it once, and they get 2 hits in, it's gone. 4 is actually a lot harder because you'll need 2 people to, like 2 other people to hit, including yourself, to get 4 hits out, especially in the early game where everyone's attack speed is pretty low, right? But 3 is not that hard. It's not the biggest nerf to Gyro though, so let's see if he remains a top carry pick. Now for Io, what do they do to your boy here? Base damage reduced by 4. It actually hurts his harass potential. He's not a mid hero or a core hero or anything like that. Commonly played. It's not mid or carry, so it's not like it's going to affect his last hitting potential, but his harass potential is going to hurt, especially because Io doesn't really go for stat items early on in most builds. They go for his regen. Now Tether now sets your movement speed to match the tethered target speed. So if you're tethered to Lycan, you're going to move fast as Lycan with his ultimate. If you're tethered to Bloodseeker with Thirst, you're going to move fast as the Bloodseeker. Okay. And it also no longer has a duration. Now this makes it easy for Io without boots. This pretty much makes it so you no longer ever need boots for Io. Because before, the only time you need boots is when you're playing with teammates that didn't really communicate, or you're not talking to them, so they just inadvertently break the tether because they're moving too fast. Now that's never going to happen. You're always going to be moving at the same speed as your tethered target. So not only that is going to mean that you don't need boots to keep up with them, but you won't even need boots to like avoid certain things, like heroes that are going to jump on you. So you're tethered to that Lycan and someone jumps on you as an Eye, or you're running away as fast as that ultimate Lycan, or like a super fast hero like a Luna or something like that. You're going to run just as fast as her, and you're going to be very hard to catch out in a team fight. So overall, that's a buff, of course. And the tether no longer having a duration is also a buff. You can tether to a target for as long as they're alive, or as long as you're alive. You don't have to worry about untethering and retethering, even though that wasn't really the biggest deal there, but that's like a split second of your attention that you have to remember. Also, the thing with tethering is if you tether from too far away, it's going to pull you really close to a target, and you can't maintain ideal distance so that you don't like get caught in like any AoE stun or spell or something like that. Now you can just tether to a target and you're lashed onto them until you decide to break it yourself by untethering, or you break because of range, which is now a lot harder to happen because unless you're doing it intentionally because of the move speed change as well. Overall, I'd say that makes the hero easier to play because again, you don't have to think about retethering. You're going to save that mana as well. In the early game, you literally can be just tethered to your ally in the laning stage for the whole laning stage without having to spend any mana. You're also going to be moving at their move speed. It's going to actually change a decent amount of how the hero plays out. Now, what is the downside here? The tether move speed is going to be nerfed. Now, keep in mind, it used to be 20% at level 1, guys. But now it's 7%. But keep in mind that now the IO is going to move at the same speed as the tethered target. So let's say you're tethered to a hero with boots. You're going to move just as fast as them. You're not going to give them as much bonus, but you yourself as an IO is still benefiting more, from the overall change, right? So you're going to get more move speed because not only you're going to buff your allies' move speed, even though it's 7% now at level 1, 10% at level 2, 13%, and it's the same at level 4. So it's not that much difference at level 3. Now the thing is, IO, the most common build is to max tether last. But now I think with this change, especially the next change here, I already glanced over it, is because the tether regen is now also scaling. It used to be 1.5 times regen shared at all levels to now scaling 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 to a max 1.5. You're going to be maxing tether now. Not over spirits, because you still want the spirits for additional damage. I see some people maybe try no spirits build, but that would just be super weird. Only healing IO. But I do think that, because if you look at how the overcharge scales, it actually scales pretty well. You get 10 attack speed every level, but additional 5% damage reduction every level at the same health and mana drain cost. So the thing is, you're not losing anything from maxing overcharge before. You're only gaining an advantage, right? It's not like it's costing you more health or mana to get the increased buffs of overcharge. So there's really no reason not to level up overcharge, because tether is just scaled pretty poorly. All it did was it increased the tether slope and it increased the move speed, and that was all. But now it's gonna increase the move speed even more, because it starts at such a low place at only 7%. Really pretty insignificant. And also the tether regen now being scaling as well gives you more incentive to level up tether. Maybe I wouldn't say you would level it overcharge, because it's still really good. Maybe at the same rate, you go for like 2, 4, 2, or maybe I still think spirits, you can't skip out spirits. It's the main source of your damage. You can't skip out on it. But I do think that it's going to change how IO gets skilled. But overall, I would say it's a buff. A nerf. I would say it's more of a nerf than a buff, especially with the base damage reduction. But no, this changes things. It makes them nice to play in certain scenarios, especially with fast heroes. I would say it's even a buff with fast heroes, because mobility is underrated in IO for sure. Especially in pubs. In pro play, you're not gonna juke people. They want to kill you, they're gonna go on you. But in a pub with uncoordinated enemies, having this extra move speed can be the difference between life and death. But overall, if you're considering a pro setting, IO has been nerfed pretty significant actually with this tether regen scaling. What the heck? Stop doing that. Now moving onward to relocate, the cooldown has also been increased at all levels. This has been a recurring change. It used to be 100 seconds at level 1, I believe, and 60 seconds at level 3, but now it's gonna get increased by another 10 seconds. I mean, with such a powerful ability, you can't really argue against this nerf, but it's gonna hurt. especially if you consider 60 seconds relocating the pass. Like, you can just use it randomly just to push out waves and things like that, but now you might not have it to save a target in a team fight, or, you know, go for a gank or something like that. It can be a big deal. Alright, moving on. Leshrac, base move speed increased by 5. Not that big. Lightning Storm, looks like they're gonna buff that all around here. Damage has been buffed at all levels, except for level 4. The slow duration has also been rescaled. Okay, so the slow is less, but the damage is more. A little bit less slow, does a little bit more damage, but also the cast point has been reduced, which is a big deal for heroes like Leshrac that, you know, is really reliant on spell casting and wants to get his spells out as quickly as possible. I think Leshrac's actually a really good hero, and we'll see him picked for sure, in my opinion. With this base move speed, with the previous buffs to him as well, if you look, you see it. The mana cost has been slowly lowered at earlier levels so that he can actually use all of his spells and spam pretty significantly at earlier levels. He's not a bad hero. You know, he's not being picked that often right now, but don't count this guy out. I think he is actually pretty strong. Alright. Lich. Sacrifice mana conversion increased. So he's going to get more mana from the creeps he eats, which means that you can eat the range creep and still get a decent amount of mana from it. Unlike before, where if you're eating range creeps, you're going to need clarities if you're spamming your spells. That's pretty much it. That's all they did to Lich. I still think Lich is not the best pick because he feels weak in lane, even though he wins you the lane eventually. Because like that phase where he's not that strong, some heroes can just abuse and win the lane so hard, like an IO or a Chen or Enchantress, that, you know, by the time we're Lich, oh, I'm getting a Spear's advantage, it's too late. But I think the game has slowed down a little bit since the nerfs to Chen and Enchantress, and we might see Lich rearing back. Life Stealer, open wounds mana cost increased to 140 at all levels, no longer scaling. Life Stealer is a hero that kind of has mana problems, but only really early on. So eventually he's going to be able to sustain. You know, he doesn't really build Echo Saber anymore, or any form of mana regen items. This combined with Clarities being nerfed, and mana is going to be somewhat of a problem for him, but as long as he has mana boots, some way to give him mana, he should be fine. Even just a magic wand. I mean, it will affect him, because Lifestealer running out of mana in team fight and not having open wounds or rage is a big problem, and you definitely have to build and think around that. Alright, Lion, Earth Spike mana cost has been rescaled, 70 at level 1, scaling up to 160, so they're doing this with a lot of spells, where they're like changing the damage or the mana cost or cooldowns at just early levels, but keeping it the same at level 4, which affects, you know, the hero mostly in the laning stage, making these heroes that had these high cooldown spells or high mana cost spells just be able to use their spells and be more effective in the laning stage. Magnus, Skewer AoE increase, so that's the AoE where he's gonna, you know, bring people in with his Skewer, making it a little bit easier to catch targets. Reverse polarities, stun duration has also been increased at all levels except for level 3 again. Just making these heroes a little bit stronger at the early levels while maintaining their overall strength the same, you know, when they max out. Mirana, base attack damage range from 39 to 50, which actually, that's a whole 10 damage variance there, to 43 to 48. So it's gonna just tighten it up there. She won't do as much maximum damage as she used to, but she's going to make her a little more consistent in last hitting. And it's weird that they make these changes. It's not something that a lot of people think about, but they're like, oh, we're make Mirana a more reliable laner. We're going to lower her damage variance down to 5 compared to the 11 it used to be at. And that's nice. Now, considering it's pretty low damage, right? So you want as little variance as possible to be able to CS reliably. Monkey King Wukong's command. The Wukong's command soldier attack rate has been improved, so the soldiers or the monkeys are going to attack a little more often. Just overall buff to his ultimate. Monkey King is a pretty weak hero, again, because he doesn't lane pressure that well, and he's been receiving some changes recently, right? Last update he did receive some changes to his talent tree, I believe, and now he gets his ultimate buffed. Necrophos, when was the last time we saw this hero? Heartstopper aura has been increased, buffed at levels 2 to level 3, or level 4 actually. Level 1 is going to stay the same. For the most part, Necrophos, yeah, they'll actually max Heartstopper, I forgot. For the most part, they'll leave their Ghost Shot on just 1 point. So I don't know how much that's going to affect Necrophos. Again, this is going to make him more useful at his job, which is a tank buster, right? To deal with annoying heroes like Dragon Knights and potentially the Bristlebacks or something like that. Death Pulse mana cost has been rescaled, costing lower mana at earlier levels and more mana only at level 4, which again shouldn't be a problem once he gets to that point. He's going to be high enough level, have a big enough mana pool. Small buffs to Necrophos, but it definitely makes him better at doing what the only thing he's good for right now is to just take out really tanky targets that are hard to deal with. But again, I don't see that bringing him back into the meta or anything like that. Ogre Magi multicast no longer increases Fire Blast mana cost. Oh, that's actually a pretty big buff. That's actually a really big buff. So before multicast would increase your Fire Blast mana cost, so then you just run through mana real fast. But now it doesn't. So we look at, I don't know why I did this, Ogre Magi here. It's just gonna be whatever number your Fire Blast is on. So you have level 1 Fire Blast, 75 mana, that's it. 75 mana, that is it. That's pretty big actually. It's gonna help him with his mana problems so much. Get away with spamming a lot of spells without running out of mana. It's a nice change to Ogre, considering he's kind of falling out of the meta. The main reason is he's kind of slow, and playing against heroes like Shadow Fiend is just asking to get triple, double raise, especially against heroes like Tusk and stuff like that as well. You just get sharded in real easily, and even though you're super tanky, the enemy heroes have the damage, you're gonna die. Alright, Repel mana cost has been increased from 50 to 85 for Omni Knight. Not that big of a deal, but definitely gonna make it more difficult, especially if he's like going for like the Soul Ring and phase build. Like no mana boots, it's gonna be hard for him to sustain, casting Repel and his other spells as well. He might not have enough mana. Phantom Assassin, Stifling Dagger is going to be able to target it onto spell immune targets. The slow won't have effect, but it'll still do damage. Now she actually can throw daggers at heroes that are spell immune, which is pretty nice. Gonna be able to toss in that last dagger potentially to last hit someone who's BKB or raged or spinning Juggernaut, something like that. It's a nice change considering that it's like an auto attack, it's physical damage. It makes sense why I would go through spell immunity. Phoenix has Supernova radius increase from 1000 to 1300. There's a bigger AoE. I feel like Phoenix already solid hero. It's gonna make him even more effective, or her, even more effective in team fights. And now it turns night into day for the duration, and has the highest priority. What does that mean? So even if it's like there's like a Night Stalker ultimate or whatever, it'll take priority, so it makes it into daytime. I'm not so sure how that really matters. Like if it's like night and your team has trouble like catching out targets, but now we have the first hero that makes it from night into day. We have Luna who makes it from day into night, and Night Stalker who makes it from day into night, but no other hero makes it from night into day. Finally, Phoenix gonna do that. Really isn't that big of a deal. It's the same thing as Luna Ultimate making it from day to night. But it makes sense. Supernova. Why not? Alright, Razor nerfs here. Static link cast range reduced from 600 to 550. The break range is still the same, but really doesn't do too much, huh? 50 range. Well, affect like his laning against heroes that have like higher range, but like against melees, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. Unstable current damage has been reduced. It's gonna be a lot lower at earlier levels. This is passive and the purge effect, right? It does affect the damage output early on when it doesn't have maxed out unstable, so. And usually he doesn't max his first, so this definitely does affect his overall damage output, but that's pretty much it. Again, it's random anyway, so it's not like it doesn't really affect his reliable damage output, it just affects it. Especially if it's like chasing down a single target, you might not have enough damage to finish him off anymore. Alright, Tricks of the Trade has been reworked for Riki. Instead of hitting every hero in the AoE once per second, it hits a random hero once per 0.5, 0.45, 0.4 seconds. So now it's kind of omni-slashy, but like it's an AoE omni-slashy. Instead of just hitting everyone, it hits just one random target. And I'm assuming it'll like swap around. It's not just gonna hit one target, right? It's not gonna pick one target and only hit it. It's gonna just bounce between them, I'm assuming. We can check that. Tricks of the Trade will hit creeps if there are no heroes, and it will hit creeps as well if there's no heroes. It's gonna go for heroes first, and if there's no creeps, or if there's no heroes, it will go for the creeps. And the duration has also been increased at all levels by 1 second. And this makes the damage output a lot higher if you're using it on just one target. And we can test it right now. Before, like, his ultimate was like kind of useless if you're not hitting it on everyone, because it was really slow, right? The attack, you just hit every 1 second. But now, you know, enemy here. Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that was a level 1 axe, but I think that's a pretty good change to Riki. He feels pretty bad, and this actually makes him. This is actually really strong. His ultimate's really strong now. His ultimate before felt kind of shitty in most cases, but now that's really good, especially if you're using it on like just one target, just destroying them. It's like it's comparable to like a solo Omni Slash, right? And keep in mind, he always hits him from behind, so it's guaranteed hits from behind while he's untargetable. That's actually really strong. I think Riki has some potential here. Alright, Rubik telekinesis cooldown has been increased only at the early levels again, makes him a weaker laner. Notice these heroes that are super popular right now being picked all over the place, they all got nerfed at the early levels to make them weaker laners. What is that? Microsoft Store? Shut up, Microsoft Store. But they're being kept the same when they max out. Sand King, I would say same thing, right? Stun duration has been rescaled. Lower at earlier levels. The same, or higher actually, at level 4. and his base movement speed has also been reduced. So overall, all these weak heroes, or these strong heroes, have been weakened in the laning stage. These heroes that weren't picked so much, like Ogre Magi, Lich, things like that, has been buffed in the laning stage, but overall kept the same. So the thing is, the idea is they're going to keep these heroes the same, when everyone maxes out, but they're going to affect them in the laning stage. Same thing like Crystal Maiden, right? Bounty Hunter, his mana cost has been increased, and this is a common theme. You're too good, we're going to get nerfed at earlier levels, but you're going to remain the same. Like, that's what happened to Aya, right? Nerfed at earlier levels, pretty much the same once he maxes out. Shadow Demon. Demonic Purge. Slow now always scales linearly with time from 100% to 20%. What does that mean? I don't know how it used to work, but I thought now always scales linearly with time from 100%. I'm just gonna go over that one, but I don't know what it was before or how it worked before. I always thought it did scale because the description says the unit slowly regains its speed until the end of duration, but I guess it wasn't linearly, but now it is. Okay. Demonic Purge cooldown has been increased from 40 to 60. The duration has been increased though. So I mean, it's really nice to have a 40-second, but it was kind of unnecessary. So they're gonna rework that. They reworked how the slow scaled, and they nerf its duration or its cooldown. They buff its duration, and it no longer roots non-hero units for 3 seconds. Okay. And now it continuously dispels target. Okay, that's the change. So it continuously purges. So you get purged, and you're purged for the full duration. Anything on you, positive buff, no. Say bye-bye. It's gone immediately. Continuously dispelled. And that's the change. So they changed how the slow scaled. They nerfed the cooldown by 20 seconds, which, okay, whatever. They increased the duration, which is pretty big. I guess it didn't scale linearly before because of the duration and how the slow scaled. But now with linear, the duration is 7 seconds. It no longer roots non-hero units, but who uses purge on non-hero units? How often does that happen? But now it continuously dispels. So any positive buff that gets added while you're already purged is just gonna get purged right away. Okay. It's kind of complicated, really didn't do too much, but there you go. Slaughter. Guardian Sprint no longer has 15% damage amp. The duration has been reduced, and that's it. Keep in mind, he runs like a madman in the water. Oh. Alright, I'm seeing a Slaughter IO support here. Some crazy river shenanigans. Some super fast IO Slaughter action. It's actually really big, by the way. Does this hurt? And without this anymore, like, he can just go in ham. No fear. No fear at all. He's a manly fish. Speaking of fish, you're going to change Slark here as well. Actually, this is a significant buff. 1.5 HP regen to 2.75, significantly increasing his laning capabilities, giving him more regen and ability to last in lane until he gets level 6. And his turn rate has also been improved, allowing him to hit pounce easier. Now, Sniper is assassinate. His mana cost can be rescaled, lowered at level 2 and level 3. That's it. Really not that big of a deal. It's nice for him because he doesn't really buy any mana items other than, I guess, Hurricane Pike and it's nice to have. Gonna give him some less mana problems. Spectral dagger damage has been increased quite significantly actually at earlier levels. Say that's, I don't think Spectre's that great of a hero still, but it's appreciated. Anything making Spectre more of a presence in lane stage is going to be a big buff, because right, that's her big weakness. Like, you can buff Spectre in the late game, and it's only going to mean so much because like she's such like a strong late game hero anyway. But if you buff her weakness, that's where you're going to see the biggest impact. And they're going to buff her Spectral Dagger at early levels. So, and actually overall, how many heroes we have left? A couple more. Spirit Breaker, Empowering Haste no longer reduces your movement speed afterwards, so now there's no downside of just spamming Empowering Haste. Or not spamming it, what the heck, stop. And the cooldown, however, has been increased. That's nice. So before you get less move speed after using Empowering Haze, now you just go use it. There's no downside except for the longer cooldown. TA movement speed has been increased, and this is going to affect her laning, making her a little bit harder to kill, allowing her to chase down targets easier and things like that. Not that big of a deal though. Timber Saw, the Chakram mana cost per second has been reduced, and the initial mana cost has also been reduced at early levels, overall making Timber a stronger hero earlier on. Again, he feels like fragile win condition. I think the best way to put him is, you know, he's really strong. He's gonna allow you to just snowball, but as soon as he dies a couple times, he's just kind of worthless. And just, you know, giving a little bit buff here so that maybe even playing from behind, he can be a little bit more useful. You know, having his Chakram cost less mana and things like that is gonna help him out. But overall, it doesn't really change the status of the hero. However, this will change the status of Tiny, nerfing his base health regen from 2.5 to 1.5, because the strength of this hero was in his laning stage, and now that they nerf his HP regen, that's going to affect him in the laning stage, and his avalanche cooldown has also been increased, affecting his fighting capabilities early on, along with his toss cooldown, if you remember, that's also been nerfed as well, so it's going to be a pretty big hit here to Tiny. Sheen Protector base intelligence increased by 3. Now, this hero doesn't have mana problems if you know what you're doing, but it's gonna that really didn't do anything. And then, hey, look at Treant. He's not a bad hero. Why are you not picking Treant? Troll Warlord. Berserker's Rage basic tag time improved from 1.5 to 1.45. Doesn't look like much, but if you add it with like all the attack speed that he gets and gains, actually is pretty significant. DPS increase, I guess, but small number like this, you know, if it went by a full 0.1%, would be a bigger deal. But I'm not gonna do the math, but 0.05. It adds up because we were talking about divisions and multiplications here, so it's even though it's such a small decimal there, you know, you start multiplying that and it adds up pretty quickly. Tusk Ice Shards cooldown has been increased, again nerfing a hero actually throughout, so it's just gonna get increased throughout all levels, not just the earlier levels, just all levels. Keep in mind he does have an Ice Shards cooldown reduction talent, but that's at level 25, so it doesn't matter too much there. It's a bit of a nerf there to Tusk. Ooh, Undying buffs, huh? Let's see. Undying Zombie critical health attack speed boost increased from 50 to 75. I'm assuming they're talking about the percentage there, right?
I bring the song of death.
Wait, what are they talking about? Undying Zombie critical health attack speed boost, attack speed boost increased from 50 to 70. Oh, the actual the actual attack speed boost. So like the actual, like that's how much attack speed they're getting now. So they're gonna attack faster once the enemy enters critical health, which is 20%, 25, 30% to 35%. Our Undying, shut up. And Flesh Golem hero kill heal increased from 10% to 15, 20 to 25%, which gives you more of a reason to level up Flesh Golem, because we didn't know it's pretty common just to leave Flesh Golem on level 1 because it didn't really scale too well. But now this provides some more scaling, but even then, I think he's leveling up his other spells before his ultimate choice probably still better. Warlock Golem attack damage has been increased at level 2 and level 3. Just slightly, really that big of a deal. It's weird they would change that of all things about Warlock, but it makes his ultimate a little bit more powerful. Wind Ranger, fix clunkiness with how Wind Ranger attacks. Yeah, if that wasn't clunky, okay, that's literally it. It's not even a buff or a nerf. It's fixed it so it doesn't look so crazy. Now, Winter Wyvern base intelligence increased by 1. Didn't they nerf Winter Wyvern's intelligence previously? They're like, oh, okay, maybe we went too far. Now, the Arctic Burn attack range, that was also recently changed, right? Yeah, the mana cost was reduced. Now, the attack range has been increased at all levels, and hope to bring Winter Wyvern back. This is not a hero I want to see back. It's super annoying to play against. But, okay, Winter Wyvern. Not picked, we'll give you a reason. Zeus' attack range has been increased and his base damage has been increased, making him more viable laner. But that's pretty much it. That's going to be all of the changes for 7.12. There was some pretty significant changes. It was more, more so of a patch notes than last week, where we just got buyback change and that is it. But there are actually some pretty significant nerfs and buffs, even though small still. It definitely affects how a lot of these heroes play, especially in the laning stage, which changes a lot. It changed my hero Io and a couple of other heroes I played, mainly being nerfs, but also buffs heroes I play, like Spirit Breaker, Crystal Maiden, and Ogre. So we'll see how this patch is to me. But my overall opinions on this patch, pretty decent changes, I gotta say. They didn't really affect the game too much, but it's definitely gonna freshen things up a little bit. We're gonna see heroes that we haven't seen before, like Ricky, for example, and probably Slaughter. So I'll see you guys in the next video. This was Hachi's patch notes analysis for 7.12. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe down below. Leave the like on the video so other people can see it as well, as I try my best to get out these patch analysis videos every week for you guys, or every 2 weeks. So I'll see you all in the next video. I'm not so sure what that's going to be, but peace out everyone. It is Hachi signing out.